What's up guys, Chris here from Signs of Life, back again with another video, and in today's video we're going to talk about live performance. Now in ambient music there are so many different ways you can perform live. You can play your synths live on stage, through effects boxes, launching clips inside of your DAW itself. There are so many different ways you can go about it, and in today's video I'm just going to give you guys a couple simple tricks that I use when preparing for a live performance. Now I'm going to preface this video by announcing I'm playing 2 shows over the next 2 weeks. First is on July 31st for the Some Good Music Vibes Summer Chill Festival. I'm super excited about this. The link will be down in the description down below. Make sure you subscribe to their YouTube channel. It's on July 31st, and I'm super excited to see you there. The second, I'm playing at the one and only DEF CON this year. I'm super excited about this one. August 5th through the 8th, defcon.org. You can get your tickets there. It's streaming live and in person in Las Vegas. So make sure you guys check that out, defcon.org, and I hope to see you guys there as well. So as always, make sure you guys smash that like button on the way in, subscribe to the channel if you guys feel called to do so, and let's dive in. All right, so here we are back in Ableton Live 11. Now, this is a track, you guys remember this track, it was the full track walkthrough. Now this track is not done yet. However, it would make a great live performance track. So we're gonna go over how to prepare something like this for a live performance, right? You guys remember this one, right? There's a lot of cool parts to this song. And even at, like I said, such an early stage, you can still make this something really great for a live performance, okay? And it'll be like, wow, where did that track come from? It's almost like a surprise, okay? So the 3 goals that we have here today when preparing this track for live performances, number 1, we want to shorten up our clips. So then we can loop them, thereby eliminating these long, 6, 7, 8 minute clips that are playing. You can have something a little more manageable. Second of all, we want to pare down our tracks and simplify them to make them more manageable, especially when we're launching them. So I like to, for example, group my pads together. I like to put the drums and the hi-hats on their own separate tracks, and then maybe the bass lines, but then make sure that if the bass line does change, that I am exporting that separately and making sure that when I launch those bass lines at the appropriate time, everything flows right. And the third thing is I want to simplify everything. So when it's time to perform it live, I have a good overview of what my track is going to sound like. All right. So let's kind of dive into this track and see what we can pull out of it. This is the first stem and it's a Cloud Spire pad. So I'm just going to hit play here. And this could be a good intro to the track, right? So this is like the beginning of the song and you can open with that. And I'm good with that, right? So I'm going to shorten it up to about 64 bars right here because I see that like I've originally made it 64 bars. That's the loop length. So I'm going to say, okay. And the third thing, you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to delete all this reverb over here and delay. So I'm going to delete the stems and I'm also going to delete all the buses. So we're going to delete all those buses. So now we just have like straight stem here. Okay. And we're going to call that Cloud Spire. Now I will freeze that at the end and then show you guys how it all comes together. The second track that we have here is this Sign. Now this has a lot of delay on it. So it's going to sound not so good that I've taken the delay off. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to solo this track and we're going to select all these tracks right here. When I seem to delete it, it wants to go to send. So we're going to go to master. There we go. All right. So what we have here, here's the sign. Okay. And it already has a delay on it. That's cool. We can leave that delay there. I don't really care. All right. And I see it's a 8-bar loop. So great. I'm going to leave it just like that and an 8-bar loop and it will fade out. And we can actually take the delay off. We can turn the delay off and now we just have this. Because the delay we're going to have in our live performance set. So when we finally get to that point, we're not going to need the delay after that. So make sure you turn off any effects that you might have. Now, this is an interesting stem. This is the glitchy kicks stem that we sort of came up with. And that's cool. That could serve us well in the beginning. So I'm going to shorten that up to about 16 bars here. We're gonna call that glitchy kicks. And then we have a hi-hat track, which does not change. It repeats twice, but it does not change. So I'm gonna, this is a classic example of something you can really shorten up. You can shorten this up to about 8 bars. Let's solo that as well. Right? So now you have all these stems here at the beginning that you can sort of launch from bar 0. And that's a good way to get your stems out of Ableton. Now I'm going to delete everything after that. So the goal here is to shorten your stems up so you can launch them and they can loop and repeat. Because sometimes when you're playing live performance, the tracks can just kind of go all over the place. They can be this or that. And you can actually go into zones that you've never been before in these tracks because you're launching clips at different times. It's actually quite exciting. So this is the straight 4/4 kick, I think. Yep, this is the 4 on the floor. Nice sounding kick, okay? Make sure that's gain stage properly because we're gonna freeze it. So that'll be your 4 on the floor. Now let's, once we freeze that, we'll name that track. And then what is this right here? Let's figure that out. Let's solo that. Yes, this would be the straight bass. We're gonna call this just the, triple bass or the triple step bass, right? Offset bass, that's what I like to call it. All right, so offset bass right there. And then here we have, now this is interesting because this is one of the examples that I've sort of laid out as, okay, the bass line is gonna change here. So what I need to do is I need to duplicate this track. So I'm just gonna hit Command D and duplicate this track. And then I'm gonna delete the beginning and keep the end and then bring this back over. So now I have 2 different bass lines here. Okay, I can see this is bass line number 1 and this is bass line number 2. So I can label this bass 1. How about long bass 1. And then in here, I'll call this long bass 2. Cool. So now I have this one on the top, which is sort of a different note variation. Okay. That's that. They're both running from Vital. Make sure they're gain stage properly. This is basically a raw track. I mean, I just sort of like approach this. And then this is the last bass line. So this will be our ending bass line. And it goes down. Right. So that's long bass 2. Okay. So we're going to freeze that. Now, this right here is some extra pads. Now, as you can see, there's different lines here. So we have this one and then this one. These are 2 different pad variations. And I think this is the high pad. This is what we're calling high pad. All right. So again, I'm going to duplicate this track and I'm going to separate it out. So this will be high pad 1 and this will be high pad 2. And I'm going to delete everything else and now pull this back to bar 0. And again, I'm pulling this back to bar 0. So when I freeze it and then export it or drag it in, it's all going to be set at 0. I don't have to worry about, anything being like out of time. I'm just creating loops out of this. All right. So this will be, let's rename this. This will be high pad 1, and then high pad 2, all caps, whatever. All right. So then we have stochas. We don't need stochas anymore because we've already created our sequence. This sequence can probably be 16 bars. I like 16, 32, and 64, and 8. Like anything multiplied of 8, that's a really good place to be if you're thinking about it. And so this is interesting too. We have multiple different lines here. I remember this. This was our like arpeggiated lead. Okay, so that's another classic example. So here we go. We're gonna do this like this. We're gonna duplicate this track, and we're gonna put line number 2, or riff number 2 rather, on another track separately. Okay, so this will be ARP lead 1, and this will be ARP lead 2. So you guys see what I'm doing? I'm just sort of like dithering this down to make it really easy. I don't want to complicate this, especially when you're trying to play something live and you're in front of an audience or you're record. I mean, a lot of performances now, especially the ones I got coming up, are virtual performances. So you just want to have it manageable where you can. There's so many things to think about. You want to think less and just focus on the actual performance of it. All right. So here we go. This is still set to sends, and we'll figure out what this is. Yes. And so this was our trippy sequence. All right. Trippy seq, right? There you go. Cool. I'm going to take out this audio track And there we go. All right. So now what we have here is we have a bunch of stems that are all starting at bar 0. There's no effects going in here. If we just play the track, it's going to sound horrible, but I mean, whatever. That's the name of the game. So what we're going to do is we're going to now freeze all of these tracks, flatten them, and then import them into a separate live session. And we're going to get to work. All right. So on the other side of this, I'm going to freeze these, flatten them, and then I'll see you guys on the other side. All right. So here we are in the main session. This is my larger DEF CON set. What do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 tracks in this thing. And it looks like Alice in Wonderland. It's totally crazy, but you know what? It works for me. So we're just going to go with it for now. Now, what you're looking at here, the opening track was the one we just worked on in the other session. All right. So we have Cloudspire over here, and then I have all these clips. Now remember, I just froze and flattened all those clips. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at these clips. Here we have the Cloudspire. All right. And I'm going to play this. This is now a 32 bar loop that's just going to keep looping. I have the fade here on the end, and it's warped and looped, meaning that it's going to, it fits the track, right? The tempo is now set because I've launched my scene launch over here, and I've set all the tempo to 114. So no matter what happens in this whole segment right here, it's all 114, which is good. And then I also have my key set. Now, why would I want my key set? The reason why is because I have these 3 open tracks here, and these all have like pre-built things that I can do on top of my existing track, right? So I have an instance of Serum here, Vital, and then the Sine. We'll talk about that in a second. All right, so here we have Cloudspire launching. This could be this is the beginning of the show, right? And then when this finishes, or even before it finishes, I'm going to launch the hi-hats. All right, and you hear that's just looping, right? And the Sine launch, right? So now on the push, I'm going to move over and then sort of get an overall picture of my scene. Now, you can do this in any other DAW. Usually most DAWs now are launching clips in some sort of session style view, right? So this is more of an Ableton-centric tutorial, but at the same time, you can get something out of it. There's that 4/4, right? Nice drum beat right there. Again, it's set to loop. Warp is on beats because it's a beat. All right, and now we're gonna launch the offset trance bass right here. There we go. So the track is sort of building up, right? And I have full control over what I want to do with this. A lot of the times I'll put, you know, something like an auto filter on top of that. So what I can do with this is on the push, I sort of use an auto filter in that way and muffle some of the high frequencies if I want to. We can talk about that in a second. So then I'm going to further on down, and I'm going to launch that bass line here. Watch this. So I have these 2 long bass setups, and this is sort of another way to build the track up. I'm going to return to this in a second. Right? This could be one segment of the track. So now, like I said, I have these open tracks here. So I'm going to switch to note, making sure that I'm on the right scale and the right key right here. And now I can start playing this. As sort of an interlude, right? And then lead the audience in to the next segment. And then we'll switch back to session, and we'll go back to that offset trance bass. Check it out. Just like that, all right? And now we'll start the sequences. Boom. So this is performing live, right? You're performing your music in a way where you've already preset up all those clips. So at the right time, depending on how you feel or how you see it, it's all just sort of like, that's what performance is, right? It's intuition, it's on the fly. Bring in some of those high pads. can bring in one of those auto filters here for that high pad. It's just a quick way to do it. I'm gonna drag an auto filter in, and then I can adjust it on the push. Hear that? Why not? Kind of cool to get some resonance in there, right? Add some more sequences. And now you're rolling. Right? And now I can come back, and because I've launched the scene at 114, I can come back here, switch over to note. There's the sine. Right? Cool. And then we can switch back to that long bass again. Ready? And bring it home. Boom. All right? And then what you can do is you can start pulling these clips away, right, to get yourself ready for the next transition. So you can bring this track down, back down to earth. A good way I like to do that is by removing the kick, and all of a sudden you have something that's like, okay, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and the kick goes. And all those sequences are still in, right? There you go. So like I said, just a couple simple tricks. Final thoughts would be, have fun with this. Improvise. This is just one way to perform live in Ableton Live. But there's a million different ways to do it. This is just the way that I personally do it right now. You could set up some hardware synths and play those. You could do, you know, recording on the fly. I mean, you could do all kinds of stuff. But for ambient music, when timing is not so specific, you can kind of get away with some other things that you might not necessarily be able to get away with in other genres. And it makes for a really fun and enjoyable listening experience, especially for the people who are like, wow, he's doing that all live on stage. Or nowadays, virtually. Okay? Thank you guys so much for watching. I am super stoked to be bringing this information forwards to you. I'm super stoked to be doing this channel, and I'm really excited about all of you guys following me now and subscribing. So make sure you subscribe to the channel if you guys feel called, and smash that like button. And if you guys have any more ideas about live performance or any future content that we got coming up, make sure to let me know in the comments. I love to hear from you guys, all right? So as always, keep your heads in the clouds and your feet planted firmly on the ground. My name is Chris from Signs of Life, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.